new player. Remember, this is his debut split in the LPL, and LNG, as they move into game 2, they're on blue side this time around. This is going to be interesting because, Clement, we already talked about this first pick priority and how it sets LNG up for success.
And the first picks that we have noted out have been Olaf and Pantheon for LNG. These are the champions they like. I love what eStars does here. They finally take Mikuya off of Gnar. This is what I wanted to see. Look, a lot of people say Gnar is actually fairly easy to kill early on, and I do agree. But when a player is in his comfort zone and he's almost played nothing but Gnar this entire time, you want to take away it from him. Just make sure that he's a little bit uncomfortable. And now you're on red side with the counter pick top lane. It makes it a lot easier to perform dives and to perform gank kills.
So what do you do if you're LNG? What's the first pick worthy that you set up Tarzan or potentially
Olaf?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Clem. Well done, Clementu. Yeah, we did talk about this before. I should have known. So Tarzan returning to the Olaf, still strong even despite some of the nerfs coming through. Gordrick is still at its priority. So the low health self-healing has decreased, remember, on his W. We'll see what eStar, though, want to pick up in their first rotation.
I think they're going to go back to their same tricks. Renekton is probably just the best stun champion, or else they could go for Camille. But it is just going to be the Renekton for now. Now, I do want to say something with the recent ban pick trends is that a lot of teams have been trying to flex Renekton as their first pick. They show the Renekton, but it can actually go into the mid lane as well. So they could bait out counter picks and then swap things around. We have seen RNG do this as well. But for now, they're going to be considering on one of those ganking junglers like we talked about. It is Udyr.
Yeah.
And so far for the Udyr, it is more of an AP pick. So it does fare quite well with Renekton, who's going to be coming in with mainly AD damage.
Yeah, it kind of adds that element that we've seen in the past from, ganking CC bot junglers. Bear stance, low cooldown on it. You can actually usually repeat the stun from bear stance within the period of one gank. So with that, with Renekton, there's a lot of CC chain up to that top lane or mid lane, as Clement was talking about with the flex potential. We'll wait and see, as this time it's an early Ornn from Mikuya. So another weak side top laner, the ability to absorb pressure is there again for the top.
Really not much surprises here. Seeing Mikuya go back onto the Ornn, that's probably his second most played champion, and it fills very similar roles like the Gnar. It's just something that, when you go into Mega, you have a lot of crowd control. It's pretty hard to actually dive and kill you, and you don't even need to manage a Mega Gnar bar. So that's a great pickup for him, and statistically, Ornn against Renekton has always been a very, very favorable matchup for the Ornn.
What happens when you take away Rat Zaya that he loves? He picks up the Vayne and says, volatility, here we go. A word we've already used a lot in this series. So this is already a fun bottom side matchup, Clement, and something that Rat might try and aim for agency on.
I wonder what support we are going to see picked up here. We have seen Alistar come out, double CC combo, very, very strong. And we also actually have seen Braum as well, just as a chase-up pick. But what I like about the Vayne here is if you get a skirmish into the top side and the players are slowly coming onto the scene, Vayne is a great champion at finishing off kills. She's great at sort of filtering into team fights and making sure that she is the one that picks all of them up. And as we can see right here, Braum is another champion that does that role very, very well. You can tag people with the slow. They go into stuns. Very easy to pick up multiple kills. So they're going to take the Braum away from LNG's side.
And I really respect eStar's ban here. You're getting rid of something that can help the setup of Ornn, help up the damage factors and build space. Zoe gone, Azir gone, double mid lane ban against Irma. Clement, do you just rotate back into the Rise here? How do you want to see them round this out for eStar?
So I think eStars can wait on the Rise pick. It really is about what support they want to give to Xiaoxi, and LNG are thinking about this too. We did see Xiaoxi in the previous game actually hover over the brand. I'm not sure if that's going to be the champion, but we are going to be looking at something that could potentially chase the enemy down a little bit more. I think that's what they want. Twisted Fate is... It's fine. It definitely fits with the theme, but it is a very hard commit into non-team fights. This is going to be a pure skirmish team composition.
When we look a lot at Vayne, we always talk about the team fighting capabilities because we know how good she is at, weaving around, especially with CC bots in the team. Seeing the Alistar, Clement says he likes this. He gets a tick of approval. So we do get that last solo lane counter pick, which, Clement, you're talking about a lot stronger of a position to put eStar in.
Yeah, I don't like going for the Twisted Fate right there. I feel like there's... once again, you're just going to be throwing all the bodies at Ornn, and that doesn't really end up that well because it's so telegraphed of a strategy. LNG, they're going to be the ones taking away the Twisted Fate. This is going to help them keep the Ornn alive, and they also have a very solid front line. So the Twisted Fate is going to be able to deal a lot of damage into the back as well, and we are going to see the Lovers duo be the rounded out draft.
Hey, you know, we love each other. They love each other. That's great. We're feeling a lot of love here. We get the hearts out, and it's kind of nice considering that we get that true team fighting. Or rather, I think we need to elaborate on that in a second. Hold that thought with LNG. Move to eStar and tell me how this potential Orianna fits in and how you round out this draft with what eStar want to do.
Don't think the Orianna actually fits.
There we go. So tell me why.
If you want my honest opinion, I don't think it actually fits. They don't really have a ball delivery system. This is just a champion that Irma is very, very good on. So I'm never disappointed when I see Irma on this champion. This is his most played and probably his most proficient champion. But in terms of the context of the composition, I don't think it follows up with Skirmish that well. And they don't really have a ball delivery system either. So it's going to be a bit of an awkward pick where I feel like he's trying to cancel out what Icon can potentially do on the map. But it's not going to really have its own strengths until much later into the game. I do favor LNG's comp a little bit more. They do have very good carries in the back line, very good engage all over the map to shore up that weakness coming in from Olaf, where he's a great duelist, but he can't.
Oh my god, give me the Mercedes. Let's go. You know, 1 out of every three people in our chat have one of those, Clement. So advertising to a market that is already one step ahead. But we are going to see Icon with the spell book. Good to see runes here on our page before we jump in. And good to see that LNG and eStar will be kicking off once again. LNG on the blue, eStar on the red. LNG on blue side are 6-0 right now in the LPL. They're one of the top teams and sitting 3-1, hoping to add the 4 into the column after game number 2.
We're going to wait as we go into the game. Maybe we're going in, please.
Are we there? Don't tell me. Oh, yeah, we're going.
Okay, let's go.
All right. And we're invading to start things off, but they walk over a ward. We didn't see that. Again, LPL, when we go in at 1 minute 30, so you always miss early status. But will be the invade from Tarzan. He's going to set up a vertical line towards the Zyrakan. Clement, I like this.
Really strong play early on. If they get a split map, I think this should put LNG in favor. Because, let's be honest, Mikuya is going to play very close to his own tower anyway. So, this is going to be kind of disastrous coming in from Hacker. He's actually heading down towards his blue. And that side of the quadrant is already gone, my friend.
Yeah, level 2 versus level 2, though, with the blue buff there. Undertow after Undertow. The smite to heal him up. He flashes over the wall, and this is Udi's dueling power with Tiger Stance. Tarzan getting hit down. He gets low, but Undertow connect doesn't matter. This is when Hacker's strongest and first blood. Going over to John Deere.
Oh, wow. Hacker definitely knowing the damage is a lot better than I did. He flashes in directly for the kill. And, that is going to shift that favor very, very far back into eStars, as they are going to be the one that now controls that side of the bottom lane. LNG, even though their bot lane is pushing in right now, they can't really pressure this too far with Udyr around.
I'll be curious to see if he goes for the vertical side himself, Clement. Flash was burnt. Tarzan now up towards his own blue buff. So this changes the dynamic completely, as, Mikuya always going to be that weak side top laner we talked about for LNG, but with Tarzan here, we'll see how the pathing shifts.
So Hacker, like we talked about, they don't typically go into Bear Stance until level 4. It is double points in Phoenix and Tiger to start off. So without the stun, he's not actually going to try and pressure into the bot lane. Instead, he is going towards the top, where we see Mikuya's lane actually pushing out here. If this Ornn isn't careful, it could be a very early 2-kill advantage to eStars.
As bottom lane is pushing in the meanwhile, we're just going to have a look across these drastic lanes. CS lead up there is, that's the knock up here. Ornn the Assassin gets a good trade as ZS doesn't have the spin. Means he can't really sustain this, and Mikuya getting a good trade. Might just have to run away from Hacker. Thumbs are in the air. He has a Bellows Breath waiting, so best stance doesn't matter, and Hacker's just going to clear the ward and walk away.
It definitely felt like ZS actually overtraded in that situation, so he was definitely trying to bait Mikuya to come out and use the Searing Charge just to make sure that the gank could happen. Doesn't really get it, and he loses way too much HP for this play to feel comfortable for eStars to go back on.
Meanwhile, Tarzan's going back towards the bottom side, so this might actually favor for the Scuttle trade, even after getting first blood. It doesn't feel like there's too much going on as Icon's getting traded off himself. Red card was picked up. Oh no, he didn't have the time. Flash for Irma for the solo kill. Underneath the turret, he sticks around and takes one himself. That was just a mess.
And this is why you give Irma the Orianna. It might not fit the composition that well, but he's so good on this champion. Able to find the solo kill right there. And we did see the extra speed up runes after summoners being used right there. So Irma could chase down onto Icon. He gets both of his summoners. And that would set up a pretty easy repeat gank coming in for Hacker.
Well, bit of blood shifting here as Tarzan now towards the bottom side. Both those mid laners getting a kill in retrospect and Icon moving down. Spotted on a control ward though, Clement, as the blue buff timer is pretty close to coming back up. So Tarzan knows, moves back down, and Hacker is shifting into gear of defensive mode.
It's going to be a 4v3 here with the gold card going down.
Nice gold card. Double knockup from Iwandy as well. The turret dive executed nicely. Light tanks up, flashes away as Hacker wants to trade onto Iwandy, but he shifts targets as well. Hacker needs one more auto, but the turret takes down Icon, and Hacker heals up with the turtle stance. The undertow doesn't do enough damage, and eStar with another 1-for-1.
That was pretty tragic for Icon. I felt like Tarzan actually missed an undertow there, and the tower aggro shifted towards Icon, who really shouldn't have been tanking that turret at all. So just a bit of an oopsie from LNG, and they pay with their lives.
After what looked like a pretty ingenious turret dive, Light gets the kill and Rat does go down, so that's the benefit with 80 carry staying in lane, hence the big CS lead. But a trade kill, when a trade kill shouldn't really happen, the only benefit there is that it goes to the support.
So the early gank was very beautifully done. They get the double knock up. Rat is going to fall down, but we have to pay attention to what really happened here. Why did this turret tanking go wrong? Oh, he goes back in a little bit too early. Tarzan definitely could have tanked for him right there, but it seems like the undertow or something must have missed and they don't juggle it properly. So interesting start from Icon. We see him going down 2 deaths at 6 minutes.
Yep, he's having a pretty rough time. Has the Destiny now available, but the flash was burnt in the earlier solo kill from Irma. So Icon's going to start looking to get around the map here and away from the Orianna, who has great shove in this lane, especially with the tier now picked up. Clement, I want to draw our attention to junglers once again, though, because it does feel like Tarzan is going to be trying to push the momentum back into the bottom lane, especially with the Destiny up. Light picked up the kill before. He's got a Noon Quiver and 15 CS lead. And you can see Tarzan is slowly but surely shifting his way down. I didn't even get to hand it off to you, Mr. Chu. I'm sorry. His gold card goes down. No unbreakable will, and Light picks up kill number 2. Nicely done. Definitely redeemed by LNG.
A surprisingly high amount of damage coming out from the bot lane of LNG. They're going to get that kill once more. Good target selection. They know that Rat still has the flash, so not going for the Vayne, turning on the support instead. And this should bring them into a fairly easy first Drake.
You get the control ward, you clear out. The Scuttle's going to be on top of that one. The first dragon being a mountain feels really nice to get the early stats onto Ornn. Won't be started for now as Rat and Xiaoxi come back into the wave. And especially since Hacker's coming down at level 6 with the plated steel caps. Excuse me, I don't know why that's hard to say. So eStars want priority on it first.
Yeah, so they're not actually going to full commit onto this, and this is a fairly interesting build coming out from the Udyr. The extra movement speed is going to help him a lot in the side lanes where there is more distance for you to actually catch up, and it's also pretty good against Olaf, so you can run away from that as well. But I really want to see him use this because this is a pretty big delay of your Mythic, which is the Turbo Chem Tank, and without that, like, your team fight prowess is quite low, and it also affects your damage as well. So I really want to see how he utilizes this this steel cap, whether he thinks that this will give him the advantage over someone like Tarzan in the jungle, or if he can actually find some early kills in the side lanes that justifies slowing down his Mythic purchase.
And I guess especially since Light is snowballing, you know, that could just in itself be the benefit, you know, after the fact. Especially since this Zyra is 2-0. I want to also point ahead to the CS lead. That is built off of this dive, off of the kill that came through before. Light is 30 CS up on Rat, and we know what Vayne needs. She needs time. Light not giving it to it, still pushing in the bottom wave. They have vision control bar around the dragon. And LNG right now netting a 500 gold lead at 9 minutes in the game.
This is to be expected out of the Vayne lane. She really has no option but to take CS underneath her own tower. She's going to be bleeding out on the turret plating front as well. But come late game, she's also pretty slow in terms of scaling. The main build we have seen is still the Infinity Edge build. We haven't actually seen that many people go for the Rage Blade. So I think this Vayne is going to be very inconsequential for a long period of time, and eStars really need to find something with their top lane priority, which they are now doing with the Herald.
Yeah, Herald has spawned. We did talk about LNG rotating their bottom lane. Again, something they haven't done this game, so I'll leave it there. Hacker clearing out the vision for now as well, and Iwandi starting to roam around with Tarzan. He's a step behind him. They want to make sure they get the dragon before eStar reset and head down.
Taking stock in both top laners, they do have the teleports ready, but LNG are in quite a strong and favorable position now with Rat going back to base and to buy here, so they do have a numbers advantage. They are the ones on the map out first. They are going to be starting it up.
Going to be spotted out. Hackers moving into position. Tarzan has a level lead worth noting for the extra 40 smite damage, but mid lane priority is given over to Irma, so Tarzan pulling back towards the bottom lane where Light gets the shove himself. The Xayah is going to make a huge difference as Mr. Chu, Destiny is going to be flying through the skies, and that's just to ward them away. LNG get the dragon first in the game.
Doesn't really matter if Icon's just coming out of his base. He does have that Destiny gate, so it was always numbers advantage coming in from LNG. eStars, they don't really get anything out of this. And once again, I think we're just going to see LNG continue to strip this bottom lane tower. There's nothing really stopping them at this point, and Mikuya isn't pressured whatsoever. He's behind 2 waves. That's totally acceptable for them.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be down for eStars to try and stop this tempo.
As LNG start to engage, quickness used in the bottom side. It's the final hour against Light, but dodges away from the Blade Caller. Forward Rat goes. The Night Hunter with the Silver Bolt almost takes down Iwandi, but Tarzan's there from the wing. Surprise, man! There goes Shalcy as well with the headbutt to get out of there as teleport being burnt. Ragnarok 2, he burns down in the end as Ornn comes in. Call the Forge God, not enabled. He's stunned up, but Light is still the benefactor here, Clement, with Icon flying through the shockwave, dodged away by everyone but Icon, who flashes into it, sends out a wild card, but Light still lives. Irma left to defend for the team with Hacker trying to get close. The gold card, no. It was a blue one from Icon, and all messy, but all LNG in the end, as they trade 1 for 2.
We get 10 members in the bot lane, brawling it out, and it looked like eStars was very favored from the initial trade. I'm not sure what Iwandi was thinking going into the Alistar. He gets a huge chunk of HP taken away from him, and then LNG are finally able to swing it with Tarzan coming in, but then Mikuya also comes in with very, very low HP and close to 0 mana. So we're going to go over that one. It was kind of a messy situation. I felt like eStars had to do something in the bottom lane to kind of break this slow bleed. And Rat actually played this pretty damn well. He dodges away from the Blade Caller, so isn't stunned up throughout this entire sequence, which frankly I'm quite surprised by with how many feathers were on the ground right there. Tarzan is going to be able to finish off the Alistar kill, and a bit of an oopsies from Mikuya. We don't really know what happened in the top lane. He's still able to trade 1 for 1 against the enemy Renekton. Good flash by Light incoming here just to get a little bit more damage, and Icon is able to pick up the kill onto the Vayne. So all said and done, still a pretty favorable fight for LNG like you were mentioning. Yeah. They get the numbers advantage, and they're still going to match the lane swap.
Clement, it was 1 for 3 in the end, to correct myself. I mean, it was a very beneficial fight indeed. Icon picks up a kill, and Light crucially was able to get the Gale Force off the back of it. Gore Drinker now for Tarzan. There's only 1 mythic on the side of eStar, and LNG supporting a 2k gold lead. They now reset, come back to the map towards the Rift Herald. This is very favorable. Tarzan walking into the enemy jungle. Do they care about Irma? Only the shockwave, but from there, LNG still in such a good position as Destiny being used. Actually, onto Rat. Wow. Gale Force with the kill. 401 LNG. A massive.
It's way too easy to snowball right there. I like the rotation coming in from LNG. They actually have the jungler in the mid lane to hold out the wave and let Icon roam top for that solo kill. It looks like they will be starting up their Herald and sort of forcing eStars to then punish Mikuya for the successful play in the top side.
You've also got, meanwhile, Xayah, Light swapping around. This is something we talked about maybe a little bit later in the game. But the turret plating going down just before it expires for Light. I believe he got 3 in the end. So first turret blood, a very real possibility before this Herald even drops. Light waiting for the wave. He's 40 CS up over Rat. And with this Herald, you have the ability to get this Xayah to 2 items before we even see Rat finish his first.
And honestly, this was always going to happen from the draft. Once you saw the bot lane duos, you knew that Light was going to have a massive pushing advantage, matches CS advantage over the Vayne. And eStars, unfortunately, they weren't able to find anything in the top lane, and they weren't able to punish the bot lane either. So this is just going to continue. I love what LNG did here, preemptively matching the lane swap coming in from Rat and Xiaoxi, never giving them any breathing room. And whatever lane they are going to be in, as long as Light is there, you know, they are going to continue to bleed out on these towers.
Light, someone who came in last year, or rather the year before, and, you know, we talked about him back and forth. It was Asura before him. Light's had good moments, but hasn't been that consistent of an AD carry, so it is nice to see him in a commanding position in this game, especially since when, you know, LNG, a lot of the time we talk about them playing with this AD carry in full throttle, getting advantages, whether it's the Tristana or otherwise. Here on the Xayah, back with the Caulfield's Warhammer and the Cloak of Agility. We've got a bit of crit damage now added on top of the Gale Force and 20%. But Light now sitting in the mid lane, and we have to find out if the Herald's going to be used to help him push with Dragon. Now spawning. I've answered my own question, Clement, as LNG in another favorable position. There's quickness used, but onto the shockwave again. Icon just says peekaboo. And the Herald's going to crash down, and they're going to look for Inner as well.
LNG going for the favorable trade on the map. They actually spot out 3 members on the top side. Instantly, they go for the mid pick. It's going to be 2 towers up for them, and also a play on the bottom.
ZS can't escape this one. Ragnarok used, Makuya tanks up. Gore Drinker a bit OP, but it is for Tarzan as well. A 1-for-1 in the end, not bad, but still, you lose across the map if you're eStar, and LNG will now set themselves up for Dragon.
That was a really smart play coming in from LNG. I was wondering why they weren't answering anything from the top side, but they had the Herald, they had the wards in the top that also spotted out Xiaoxi, and they were willing to pull the trigger very aggressively to get this massive trade. It's going to be 3 objectives on the map for the 1 onto eStars, and a 4k gold advantage to go along with it.
Clement, it's feeling pretty dire here for eStar. Compositionally, do you want to talk a little bit about how eStar moved back into this game? How do they deal with side lanes and an extended mid lane now that we're getting over the hump of early?
I'll be honest, I just don't like this Udyr early pick. I feel like it corners you into the early phases of the draft, and if you don't have anything to do with it, then you just start falling behind. Like, it's not a pick that's going to get you anywhere in the team fights. You really have to rely on early skirmishes. And also rounding out their bot lane pick with something that was, they showed the Vayne early on the 3rd pick before the enemy ADC even came out. So it was a bit weird, I felt. It was very unorthodox in terms of the drafting. And it didn't really fit their power spikes. You're having Orianna and Vayne that definitely want to go later into the game. And you have something like the Udyr that's really looking for skirmishes and priority early. So not a lot of matching pieces, I think, is the main problem out of eStar's draft.
Just having a look at what happened here. There was actually a kill that went over. So that was already double turret, kill in the bottom lane, and a kill in the mid lane. 6-0 now on Light. And he's got the new Essence Reaver. If anyone didn't patch up with 11.2, note that it's no longer the 3% mana that you got before. You get 40% mana back, or rather, excuse me, 40% of the damage converted into mana from Spellblade before resistances. So it is really nice as a mana item now.
It's incredibly powerful, and when I play with Gameplink on this item, I just feel like I never run out of mana. You do so much AoE damage, and if you crit on your barrels, then you get almost all of it instantly back. It also works on minions, which makes it really broken.
Oh, shockwave time. Makuya just going to die here. Called the Fort God used a little bit late, but he was stunned up. So trying to make a play while LNG group up 4. Not going to threaten the inhibitor turret, but they still trade a 1-for-1.
This is a pretty favorable trade for eStars.
Yep.
They get the extra kill on top of it, and they also know very well that with LNG's composition, they can't really afford to dive them 4v3. So that was a really good lane allocation. You know, finding advantages whenever you can.
Trying to use that Udyr, the pick that you talked about. He picks up another kill, and they'll get the turret here for eStar. That'll shorten some of the gold gap. But you can see that Light and Iwandi are coming down to respond to the wave, and Light is just picking up every single resource he can. even that Raptor camp, and we look at the bottom of our screen, 201 CS at 19 minutes of the game. Light is above the clock. He's got 6 kills. This is Xayah to solo queue Fed level. There is no one who comes close to the goal of this AD carry of LNG. So still a big issue, glaring issue for eStar to deal with. But small leads, small plays to get them back into this game. That's what it'll take as LNG is still invading and trying to continue their own lead.
And what's worse for the damage gap is that Rat did have to go for a Quicksilver Sash, so he's not likely going to have 2 items before Light has 3 items. That's a massive difference in terms of the team fighting. At this point, eStars, they're going to have to find some sort of picks away from the Xayah. Xayah's not going to leave Rakan, and they're basically unkillable at this point. They have enough damage to just burst whoever's running at them. So the only valid targets right now should be Icon or maybe Mikuya on the side lanes. But in the meantime, LNG is also very willing to trade some of this side lane pressure in order to group up. This is something they've been doing all series, and honestly, their macro read has been quite impressive to me. They know when they can trade favorably on the map, and they're willing to all in on these trades.
Also helps when they have, the vision control and they're able to spot out, like, Hacker moving into his own jungle or timing windows for Icon to abuse thanks to some of that vision I talked about. That's just one of the small parts, and you're right, the LNG macro has been what we talked about all series long. It's what we did a segment on, so it's something that has been so far favorable in both games of what we've seen. Still up by about 4,000 gold at 20 minutes into the game. We've got a rapid fire on Light, and you're right, we don't even have 2 full items for Rat thanks to the QSS. Light up 2 levels, and now with rapid fire, a lot of crit coming through, a lot of mana regen, and Clement, we've got a dragon that LNG should just take and move this Fed Xayah closer to Sol Point.
Don't really see eStars contesting this one whatsoever. They're still looking for potentially the pick play, but it's going to be LNG going in.
Icon has rapid fire. Just note that with the Magi's, he's able to scope out Rat from long range. He uses the heal to get away. That was just a lot of burst damage onto Xiaoxi too as Hacker shows himself in the mid lane. This Udyr running towards the Xayah Rakan Joy. The shockwave comes through. It only hits I1D, who quickness is backwards. Call the Forge God hits nothing though as ZS TP's in. They're trying so hard to force this play, but they get nothing.
They only find the target onto Rakan, and he has the quickness plus flash to get away from that one. They don't burn any crucial summoners away from Light. They do get his ultimate, but that ultimate is on a lot shorter cooldown compared to something like the Flash. So a lot burned for eStars. I like the attempt there, but they aren't able to find the correct target to start off.
Sol Point now available. 5 minutes. Do we get to that point? Light's still so strong. I've talked enough about him in this game, so let me move forward. Mr. Chu has already told you how this game plays out, and we saw eStars net some of that advantage to the bottom lane, but it has been trying to force for the kill, use Hacker to gap close, and set up for Rat and Xiaoxi's success. So far, not so good. And Irma trying to add something with the shockwave as well. Everyone on that team still at 1.5 items, bar ZS, who's now with the Sterix Gauge, hitting some of his strongest points in the game. As LNG are setting up for Baron Vision as well. Clement, this is a pretty dangerous spot if eStar face check.
And during that catch is why I also said I didn't really like the Orianna pick. Sure. On the Orianna, you always want someone with gap closer. It extends the range of your ball carry. If you put it on an ally, you actually get 100 extra range. And with the range of the shockwave, that gives you 1500 range to work with. But when you don't have someone that actually can go ahead with the natural gap closer, that range doesn't really account for anything. So you saw what happened there. Hacker had the ball on him, but he had to walk forward to his targets. It was painfully slow. It was agonizing to watch. Like this. And now I don't think he can get over the wall.
I mean, he needs to. He's got the flash on cooldown, as you mentioned, at 2k. Hacker's nowhere near. The smite should come down, and it does. For the fight as well, that could be extra as Mikuya with Call the Forge God lines them up 3 in a row. The undertow follows through. It's all about the quickness. Turns into sickness for eStar as ZS is the strongest one on the team, but even he has to run away. LNG fighting on their own territory now as that rapid fire cannon comes in handy once more. A knock up, a death, and LNG will just take it all.
Mikuya caps it off with the full house right there, catches 3 members of eStars as they walk down the ramp, and that lines them up perfectly for Light with the clean cuts and the blade collar to catch them all out. That was just a beautifully executed team fight from LNG. They know there's no flash from Hacker, so they don't actually have to defend anyone coming from on top of the Baron pit. They know they just have to keep their eyes on the ramp, and they had the teleport ward set up right there as well. So, that was just beautifully executed. I love how they closed the trap. We're gonna watch it one more time as they go in onto this one. They know that they have to come over through the ramp. Icon is going to the back line to cut off Rat. He dies instantly. The Quick Nick follows in, goes through the entire team, and Irma is left scrambling as the rest of his teammates go down. Well executed, well planned, well thought out. LNG are going to close this one out with style.
And Macro doing its work once again here. Makuya going to also add some items. Actually giving the Gourd Drinker upgrade. I'm looking across the board. I know with the red squares, very hard to see, but we actually gave Makuya actually gave Light the Typhoon upgrade to the Xayah just before, so we've got a couple of upgrades there. Also the Ceaseless Hunger from Gourd Drinker, what a great name by the way, has been added to Tarzan. So side lane's now set up, more items, more gold efficiency. That's about an 11k gold lead with those Ornn items as well. Make it 12. And LNG breaking the base in half. It's the inhibitor mid to go first. It's Tarzan holding the huge Baron wave. And it's LNG pushing in through the bottom side.
The best eStars can hope for is a quick wombo combo onto Light, catch him off guard, try to get him.
Up. Quickness again, it's over. LNG say, hey, you guys want to watch RNGWE? Don't worry, we got you covered. We'll slaughter eStar for the 4th time in this game as Destiny's been used once more on top of ZS. He too will drop after going golden, and Chelsea watches from the base. LNG have slaughtered eStar again in the second game and have shown us that they mean business. Ready for FPX next week.
Super one-sided series coming out from LNG. They show that they can play their own game, they can dictate the pace, they can control the macro and win the early skirmishes while exploiting the fact that eStars really only has one angle of attack. All they've been doing this split has been going into that top side with Renekton and stunning someone, CC locking them down, finding a skirmish afterwards. Once LNG was able to read that and Makuya was able to defend beautifully against all the pressure thrown his way, eStars just ran out of gas. They had nothing left in the tank. They didn't have any new cards to throw.
It was like eStar were grasping at straws. We can talk about their drafting strategy. We can talk about the issues they had in this series. Again, a team that really feels like they're out, below the playoff margin, but not at the bottom of the table. They're able to pull out some interesting picks, but in terms of macro against some of these better teams, they don't hold a torch at the moment, Clement. And, we're being harsh on eStar, but it's very granted in the LPL when we have 17 teams and we have a team that looks like it has potential, but can go no further.
Irma definitely still had a great game on your screen. You had some early solo kills onto